It's the Jim and Terry Show from the Hobbit Hole Studio in downtown Bobcaygeon. It's a cold, crispy morning. Lots of snow. Had a blizzard come through. Didn't last long, but enough of accumulation and blinding snowfall to prevent my good friend Jim from occupying the Hobbit Hole chair in the corner. Not that he's been a bad boy in 2024, but as we look back in this podcast and when Jim joins me the next week, he will undoubtedly have a few of his own things to share looking back on 2024. So today, just waxing eloquent myself, a little soliloquy on some of the stuff, and it may go over a few podcasts, but I'm going to start with one of the highlights for me, and that's the incredible stuff that comes from Trump supporters who don't seem to understand either law or find excuses for why they believe and continue to believe that Trump is a good, God-fearing man who will indeed make America something again. And I would like to fill in that blank with maybe a laughingstock of the world, third world country, an S-hole country. Like, these are possibilities when you say make America what again? Yeah, make America something other than the shining beacon on a hill. And a lot of that is because of the rhetoric. Rhetoric, simply words. Mean what you say what you mean. Up is up, down is down, left is left, right is right. Good is good, bad is not good. And you don't want that. So how do we get to this place where people who continue to look for Trump 2.0 as anything but the disaster pending? We don't know how bad it's going to get, but 2024 revealed some of the stuff. And I'll start with this one. I do follow a fellow on the left, a young progressive commentator whose show name, his YouTube channel is Destiny. I'll put a link in the description. And I happen to discover quite a few young progressives, young liberals, in the true sense of liberal, meaning advocates of freedom, of personal freedom, but also advocates of progress. So they are progressive liberals. There was a time in Canada when the word progressive accompanied the word conservative, the progressive conservatives. But ever since, I guess the mid-90s, things have fallen apart for the conservatives, and they have become less of the red Tory style, less inclusive, less big tent, less interested in including diverse people, and advocates of something regressive, taking us back, much like MAGA has again, that word in their caps and in their slogans. There is the same emphasis in Canada's CPC of taking us back to what? A father knows best, leave it to Beaver, black and white world in which things are this or that. But the trouble is that it's the bizarro version of taking us back. It's where the up is down and the down is up. It's where good is bad and bad is celebrated as being good. And all of that comes from one particular comment when I engaged with a family member on why she continued to support Trump and her beliefs about the election. This was just as the election, was just unfolding. And she had this to say that, and I asked the point blank, is Trump a convicted felon? Yes or no? And she wouldn't answer the question because, as I've come to learn subsequently over time, so that was back in November, right after the election. It's now January. So looking back over 2024, one of the big revelations to me is that, by and large, conservative-thinking Christians don't accept the jury verdict. The verdict of 12 people in a jury selected as a court of Trump's peers in New York. They don't accept the jury ruling. He's convicted on 34 counts by a jury. And now the ones who are Trump supporters happen to say, yeah, but they're all Democrats. Yeah, but they're all, yeah, but. And the reasons for ignoring a jury conviction are varied and long, but it just gets me that this is typical. I'm going to look a little at and read from Wired magazine, an online journal, and the article's called Trump's Online MAGA Army Calls Guilty Verdict a Declaration of War. And it talks about a couple of things that are of interest to me, and that's all through prior to the election on November. In America, Trump was convicted, so he's got this conviction, but he has continually said that the conviction is a sham, it's a sham trial, sham judge, and it got to be more than a sham. It got to be a flood of hatred from MAGA supporters, and Trump does what he does best, and that's, he stokes the fire, he pokes the bear, the fire is already burning, so he just throws fuel on it and blows it all up. It's like adding gasoline to social unrest on the far right. And I could see this in real time as a member of Twitter. I refuse to call it X with Elon Musk's buyout of it. It became more and more hostile to cogent, reasonable thought and was taken over by voices that seemed to be full of anything but reasonable thought, voices that were ranting, raging, anger, a lot of trolls, and even me, meek, mild me. I mean, I am a left-leaning centrist. I do enjoy supporting all people, with social policy and investment of taxpayers' money on policies that lift as many Canadians as possible. So yeah, call me a left-leaning person. But, even I got trolls and hate stuff. What? Yeah, so I ended up fleeing the Twitterverse and became part of Blue Sky. And, that remains to be seen. So far, Blue Sky seems to be a good, safe place to talk about all kinds of things that are progressive without fear of being trolled by Russian propaganda, Indian based hate. And I drag India into this because of the assassination in 2024 of a Sikh activist in British Columbia. And the fingers of that are pointing in Modi's direction, and Modi's pointing fingers in Pierre Poilievre's direction. And until this gets clarified with Pierre Poilievre getting his security clearance, heads up, he's still not got it. And before Parliament is whatever it's going to do in 2025, I'm hoping that they will pass a law requiring all party leaders to be vetted by a security clearance process. And that includes Pierre Poilievre. How has he been allowed to function so far? I don't know, but that's one of the top stories for me in 2024. How he has avoided getting a security clearance. So 2 top stories for me as I sort of look at 2024 would be the 34-count conviction prior to the election of Trump, which puts a whole bunch of coal on the heads of Trump supporters because they chose, if it is in truth a free and fair election, and I have no reason to doubt that it was free, that people could get to their polling stations and vote without harassment and being thrown under the bus or attacked or abused. I'm also thinking that it was fair. I don't have any evidence that I would point to say that, hundreds of thousands, millions of ballots were imprinted or laser tagged with French space-based lasers, or it was done by some other terrorist organization with fiber traces on ballots, as in the 2020 election claims of ne'er-do-wellness of the Stop the Steal campaign, which never really went away. They were defeated over 60 times in court, federal court. The election stood, Biden came in, but the feelings exist and persist as anger and rage. So, yeah, even Trump said it's going to be 2.0 in terms of vendettas, revenge tour 2.0. He's going to have his way. With who? with the jury? Well, he already doxed the great mega networking of people, doxed the judge, doxed the jury members. And if you know what the word dox means, you should be afraid, because that's how justice, fair and free justice for all, ends. It ends when jurors are afraid to become jurors because of fear of having their addresses known, having their personal lives exposed on the internet. All of this stuff is the stuff of the upside down world, of bizarro world of Superman, where good is bad and bad is good. Doxing people, not a good idea, especially when they're jurors in a high profile trial. Nobody wants to end up like Ruby Freeman under Giuliani's watch on Stop the Steal, who accused them of hiding ballots under a table. And that has ended up in Giuliani's bankruptcy. The long march of justice may be too long for some. It is very long and too long for me. And justice delayed is justice denied in most cases. However, Giuliani is bankrupt, and I hope the two ladies who were accused by Giuliani falsely, like most of the allegations about elections in 2020, Stop the Steal, all of that stuff, it's fake news. It's not the mainstream media, it's the far right. But don't get me started on the media, because that'll be a second story on disappointments of 2024, the failure of my media, my social media, my mainstream media, my people that I trusted to vet their stories, who would tell the truth with little or no bias. And again, I would point out that you can access all this stuff on the internet. There are lots of media choices from, I think it's called Adfonts, groundnews.com. Lots of ways of checking out what the bias is, what condition your condition is in terms of news consumption. Check it out. Make sure you're aware of your blind spots. And where you can, set a corrective course. Tell the truth. And the truth, well, sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow, but be sure it will find you out. Rudy Giuliani, one of the casualties of 2024. Trump survives being a convicted 34-count felon. Tell me how that is good and for America, and how it makes America great. In Canada, Pierre Poilievre, 2025, your chance to be vetted. Will you? Lots of dirt with India and Russia. On we go. 2024 in the rearview mirror, but looking back. Bye-bye for now.